Good afternoon. The Senate Standing Committee on Codes will come to order. It is Tuesday, March 1st, 2016. I am New York State Senator Mike Pizzolio. With me is the ranking member of the Codes Committee, Senator Dan Squadron. Senator Squadron, thank you very much for your participation and your involvement in the committee. Print number 394 by Senator Galvin. Council will read.
Senator, this is an act to amend the criminal procedure law in relation to examination of witnesses.
Motion to report. Senator Squadron.
Thank you very much. This is a bill that we've seen in the committee in prior years. And I thank the chair for agreeing to personally review the videos of all prior debates on this bill. Not a fact, but I know the chair does remember this conversation previously, so I don't need to have it again from scratch. But just to point out, this is the same bill that we've seen in prior years. It does not seem modified. It has the same concerns that it has in prior years, which is the ability in specific types of cases for an elderly person to be conditionally examined beyond what's currently allowable. It does make sense, but the blanket expectation that everyone who is 75 years or older should be conditionally examined without any additional process doesn't make sense and seems too broad and not specifically targeted to the specific elder abuse issue that is raised in the sponsored memo. So I'm without fact for that reason. I'd love to see a more targeted bill with the same goal, which is a worthy one.
Senator Squadron, points well taken. That I am going to call for a motion to report this meeting, but we will give your comments to Senator Galvin, and he may decide to make certain changes in the legislation. Print number 394, motion to report, negative votes. Senator Squadron without recommendation, bills reported. Before going to the next bill, I want to welcome Senator Escart.
Thank you.
Escart, who has been a stalwart member of the committee, as well as very much involved in the heroin task force deliberations that we have seen across the state. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Chair.
Print number 802 by Senator Gold.
Senator, this is an act to amend the penal law in relation to intentional damages of authorized emergency vehicles.
Motion to report. Negative votes, bills reported. Before calling the next bill, we've also been joined by Senator Pedavento. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
I have a bunch of extra ties in my office to share with you.
I have plenty, Senator. I've been on the run. I got to get it out of something.
Well, we appreciate you coming through. Thank you very much. There is no dress code for the committee, but in the future we may take one into consideration.
Not as long as Senator chair.
In particular, with Senator Squadron is such a heavily dressed at all times, I think that he may want to even throw off for such a code for the Codes Committee.
There you go.
Print number 1250 by Senator Peralta.
Senator, this is an act to amend the penal law in relation to forged instruments and the sale thereof.
Motion to report. Negative votes. Bills reported. 1356 by Senator Klein.
Senator, this is an act to amend the penal law in relation to theft of controlled substances.
Senator Squadron.
Thank you very much. Just briefly, again, this is another bill that we've seen in prior years, and unfortunately it seems that the concerns from prior years still hold, including the fact that we absolutely need to be doing more, and the chair mentioned the heroin task force report, doing more than we've done as a state and well beyond as communities to deal with the pathway from prescriptions to addictions. As we know, is one of the real drivers of the epidemic that we've seen throughout the state. We see it in New York City, we see it in the western and northern parts of the state, east of Harlan Island. It does not discriminate on geography or really on any other of the things that we normally see being regionalized or in other ways focused in one demographic or the other. One of the real drivers is the prescribing of and lack of control and oversight of absolutely legal prescription drugs. This deals with that as well as other controlled substances. However, there is no monetary threshold here for the e-felony, which means a single pill, a single bad decision could lead to an e-felony here. A single pill being misused if it's one of the controlled substances. To me, that is not on its own an e-felony. For that reason, I continue to be without regret. There's other parts of this bill that are important and I support. I can't support that one single component and without regret. For that reason, I hope that's not another point.
Thank you. Understand your comments, Senator. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Senator Golden.
We're joined by Premier Senator Golden. We're nice to see you, Senator.
Good to see you, Mr. Chairman.
We're voting at 1356 for Senator Klein, and the motion report is on the table. Negative votes. Bills reported. Senator Squadron with that recommendation. 2990 by Senator Young.
Senator, this is an act in the penal law in relation to prohibiting the dissemination of any image of a person that is obscene to an internet website without such a person's knowledge or consent.
Motion to report. Negative votes. Bills reported. 3317 by Senator Alonso.
Senator, this is an act in the penal law in relation to computer tampering.
Senator Squadron.
There's another bill that we've seen in prior years, had extensive conversation about it. It's unchanged, so I'm sure the conversation would be unchanged. So I do apologize to our new committee counsel for not providing the enjoyment of a new back and forth on this. I would say on this bill, as in prior years, this bill would leave 0 misdemeanor charges of computer tampering on the books in New York State. So by increasing them one after the other, which very well may or may not be something that's necessary here, it doesn't just increase penalties and send a message, it also prevents prosecutors and victims and those who have done something wrong from having the computer tampering misdemeanor available to them. I don't think it makes sense for law enforcement, I don't think it makes sense for justice, and that's the reason I am a no on this bill.
Senator Squadron, we understand your opposition. I will reiterate that the reasons to enhance these crimes, in effect, because they are pervasive, they are very intrusive and dangerous, but we also need prosecutors to take them seriously, and often at a lesser offense, they do not. So with that, I'm voting in the affirmative and call question, motion to report, negative votes, Senator Squadron, the negative, bills reported. 3402 by Senator Hannan.
Senator, this is an act in the penal law in relation to theft and unlawful possession of blank prescription forms.
Senator Squadron.
There's another bill which we had prior date. However, on this one last year, I do have a couple of new questions on this one. Last year, I in fact ended up voting aye in this committee on this bill at the conclusion of a robust debate, because counsel had said that there are controls in the public health law that govern the possession of forms already, and that public health law in fact already provides for misdemeanors for possession of prescription forms. My ongoing concern about this bill has been what the consequences are for having a blank prescription form in a vehicle without prior authorization or other ways, and the severity of the penalty on it. Since last year, we have looked through public health law, and we have seen that currently under law, in 3304 of public health law, it shall be unlawful for any person to possess or have under his control an official New York State prescription form except as expressly allowed by this article. Then also describes the penalties for willful violation of the health law, which is changing April 1st of next year, but is essentially an A misdemeanor like penalty. It's an unclassified misdemeanor, but the penalties are A, which leads me to ask why we need this provision in the penal code.
There's certainly precedence for unclassified misdemeanors and misdemeanors being defined in other sections of the law to primarily for the familiarity of the police that enforce these things. They aren't always aware of different sections of the law, consolidated and unconsolidated laws that have these sections. And penal law is the uniform place for law enforcement to look first for these matters. So I spoke to the sponsor, and there are, even though we're going to a paperless system, there are many instances of these prescription pads still out there for different reasons, and the sponsor still thinks it's important to prescribe this.
And the sponsor, did it come up in your conversation with the sponsor that this is a mirror, almost verbatim mirror of existing health law?
There's no one more familiar with health law in this capital than Senator.
That's why I asked the question.
No, I think it's a very valid question. I do remember your comments. My view is that Senator Hannan has experienced situations where this law, although part of the health law, needs additional focus and attention. If I recall, this measure may have emanated from some of the heroin discussions that were taking place during the early reviews of the task force. The task force's efforts are ongoing. And to your point prior to this, Dan, that the task force tries to be comprehensive, not just penal in nature, and look at a lot of different areas where the tributaries have led to the overflow of the crisis that we're in now regarding heroin and opioid addiction. Senator Hannan is one of the most respected members in the healthcare field in the United States, and certainly knows a tremendous amount about this, about the health law. I think as counsel indicated, as Rodney indicated, Counsel Powell said this may highlight, this intention is to highlight the criminality of this potential. And this is one of those straws that breaks the camel's back leading to opioid addiction.
And I appreciate that. And it just leaves me with two outstanding questions. One is the sponsor's real thinking on the mirror, and I've heard certainly some speculation that makes, that would make sense and would be some of the thinking. But I think that the sponsor described that would be helpful for all of the committee. And then the second is, if it is already in statute and it's not being enforced, one reason could be because it's simply too arcane for law enforcement. The other could be that it's actually, in some of the ways that I've raised in prior years, either too capricious or too significant a penalty when often there is something other than, part of the path of addiction and death in prescription form that goes on with these. And so I'd really be interested in the current enforcement of it and why it's not, both from the sponsor point of view and on the ground. For those reasons, I'm still without right on this, but I do appreciate very much both council appointed us for this last year and the further conversation we've had this year.
Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Certainly, Senator.
The heroin that's on our streets across the state of New York is we are in a crisis mode. We buried just in my 22nd senatorial district 6 kids in the past 8 weeks. I buried 2 kids in December, both doctors' kids, 24 and 27 years of age. The numbers are astronomical. We need to do something. This is a good bill. I don't care how many times it's duplicated. If the officers need to be able to find this, they need to be able to use it, they need to be able to get these forms off the streets so we don't have the overdoses that we see going on. I am in full support of it.
Thank you, Senator. Motion to report. Negative votes. Senator Squadron without recommendation. Bills reported. S3491 by Senator Galante.
Senator, this is an act to amend the penal law in relation to dissemination of false information about a missing child.
Motion to report. Negative votes. Bills reported. 4382, Senator Zolio.
Senator, as you know, this is an act to amend the penal law in relation to the promotion of prison contraband and raising the penalties therefore.
Senator Squadron.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate this bill. I can say the same thing about last year for many AWR, which is, entire years, this is sort of one of a package of prison contraband bills. And first piece and the second piece is, again, preserving the misdemeanor option, not just for the violator, but for law enforcement, for the prosecuting officials. I think is an important part of actually successful prosecution. That's what DAs have told me when I speak to them. And so for those two reasons, I'm direct on this bill. I know that last year the other kind of companion contraband bill was never introduced, and that's a significant factor that moves to the floor. Keep my eye on that as well.
Senator, if I may, within the last period of time since you and I discussed this bill, there are 23 million additional reasons why this measure should be put in place. That's the cost to the taxpayers of the prison break in Clinton. This measure certainly would have, if in fact they enhanced penalties for tools being left and cakes and other things that we certainly never agreed would continue to happen in this day and age. But the fact of the matter is, prison contraband, whether it's dramatic as it is in relation to the prison break last summer, or whether it is simply trading instruments of drug use or danger in terms of weaponry. So for those and other reasons, we certainly believe this is appropriate. And without further discussion,
Just a brief question about that. Under current law, the contraband, the hacksaw, I guess, that was smuggled in, I believe, in a cake, wouldn't that already be the D felony? That wouldn't be a misdemeanor under current law, right? That would be dangerous contraband, even under current law. Now that is increased too. In fact, increasing that felony from the D to the C, I've never expressed a concern about. It's the loss of the A misdemeanor as an option for prosecutors that I work with. I believe, because in the case of Donmore, that would have already been the D felony.
it may or may not. I think the issue is the contraband leads to danger in our prison facilities, and that's why the measure is before us. Any other comments?
Senator, if I may.
Yes, Senator Estes.
Senator Squadron, I've never heard that argument from the prosecutors. What are they telling you about?
Not specific to this, but that for any variety of charges, the ability to, with a first-time offender, with someone else, actually the ability to have a plea, the ability to have a misdemeanor or a felony to charge is an important tool in the toolbox.
Sure.
We've heard that relative to any number of parts of things over the years, not specific, to be clear, to prison contraband, or frankly, to the prior one, which is more problem.
Thank you.
The committee is pleased to have in its presence Senator Griffo. Thank you, Senator, for your participation. Any other Senator Squadron's question, Council Powell would like to address?
Yeah, Senator, and as we discussed last year, and as the senators may know, one of the tools the prosecutor uses, of course, to plea is to facilitate an attempt to a charge, which reduces it 1 degree. So, in essence, the misdemeanor is still available if the prosecutor so choose to analyze this case and let a person plead with misdemeanor. They would attempt it for 1 years of contraband, which would be, in this respect, a misdemeanor to reduce the crime.
And I think it's probably even more relevant, frankly. This is a little bit of an objective test case, right, as written, but the computer tampering point is actually an important one that I'll be going to find for the floor, because the attempt to commit computer tampering probably would be a frequent charge. Thank you.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Senator Squadron. On my left is Joe Messina, who is coming out of additional duties to also be involved in the Codes Committee. The motion is on the table. It's 44382. Negative votes. Bills reported. Senator Squadron without recommendation. Thank you.